discussion of a new HR policy, paid leave for all workers.
Okay, invite Lisa Heck to the table, our HR manager.
Hello, how's everybody today? So, Paid Leave for All Workers Act. So some of you may be familiar with this through your own. In March, the governor signed the Paid Leave for All Workers Act, which goes into effect on January, and this offers paid leave give opted for on an accrual basis because all of our other leaves, vacations, et cetera, work on an accrual basis. So it's being consistent with how we manage other employees. And it accrues at a specific rate. And right now, as things stand at the moment, full-time staff and part-time staff with the vacation we provide to them will meet the accrual threshold as outlined by the law. But we do have a subset of part-time workers who are part-time non-benefited who don't currently receive any sort of paid time off. So that's who this policy would apply to, and we did call that out in the wording. Doing the math, if every eligible employee uses every cost, the max cost would be, a little under 14,000, between 13,500 and 14,000 for the year. We've known this is coming, so this amount was factored into the budget when it was created and approved. So I'm sure you probably saw that. And so at this point, we're just asking for you to take a look at the policy. Let's talk about any questions that you may have so that we can get it approved and be in compliance with the law come January. A couple things I do want to make sure to call out is that we are still waiting on the Illinois Department of Labor to clarify some pieces, specifically as well caps. So right now, the way the policy is written, it makes it sound as if people can accrue time forever, though the max use is 40 hours within a year, which doesn't make any sense. We've talked to several employment law attorneys about this, and everybody says the Department of Labor is going to come back. The last update when we got from the Department of Labor was mid-October, and we never know when we're going to hear back from them. We're anticipating before January 1st, there will be some sort of direct. So that is my very long-winded way of saying I'm probably going to come back to you again with a couple modifications once we have clarification from the Department of Labor on that, because we would like to include rollover and accrual caps at some point, but until we get the clarification between what will be allowed with the law, we can't really go into specific details about that. So, what questions do you have about this? I know if you hadn't seen it before, it might be a little confusing.
Okay. So this is a law. So regardless if we have this policy or not, we're going to have, it's going to be something that's going to be in effect. What you're doing right now is you're just putting this into a form so we know how to calculate it, what are all the stipulations. And I'm taking it that a lot of the same things of use of paid leave, notice of leave, carryover, that's the same as somebody that's full-time 40 hours. Is that correct?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there are some small nuances. But yes.
Okay. So when I was looking at use of paid leave, so you've got paid leave may be used starting on March 31st, 2024, or after an employee has been employed for at least 90 days. Does that mean though that by that definition, if somebody started on March 30th, that they could be getting it on March 31st?
No, it's after 90 days of employment. So the March 31st is for people who are already employed. So it gives them 90 days from January 1 to March 31st, gives them 90 days to accrue before they start using. After an employee has been employed for at least 90 days, whichever is later. So if someone starts in February or March, it'd be 90 days from the time that they.
It goes 90 days past it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you were kind of getting at, but I a little.
Is it
in my mind? It was a little weird, but the way you explained it's perfectly good. So this also means that people that are falling underneath the qualifications of this right now, that they cannot start using it until March 31st, 2024,
right.
Even if they're start working today.
Correct. Because keeping in mind too, those are staff who are pretty part-time.
Yep.
And so it's gonna take a little bit of time to crew up for time to use.
Right, but they cannot legally use it until that date. Okay,
A couple questions, because I'm not, I don't deal with employment law or HR. Just curious, did the law, like, is this kind of set up the way the law said, or did people have some leeway with like, oh, we can just give it out in one lump sum, or like?
Yeah, you can do it as a front load the accrual, so people have them at the beginning of the year, or you can do it on an accrual basis. So I'm sorry, front load the hours or do it on an accrual
Okay.
basis. The law does give you the option to do that. We did the analysis and decided that for a couple of reasons. One, it's really hard to predict, especially for very part-time people, how much they would actually accrue. Like sometimes they work more, sometimes they work
Right.
less. Like, so it's really fluid. And so to get it exactly right would be hard to estimate, and then therefore would cause a lot of administrative work on the back end to make sure we don't have to like catch up or that we overpaid. That's one reason. And then the other reason being all of the staff who currently receive benefits, so the part-time benefit and all of their stuff is
That
on an
works the
accrual
same way.
basis. So it's like bringing them into the fold of what we're already doing.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question for the carryover, I'm just curious, like, because if you have unused leave, you can carry it over, but you can't use more than 40 hours. Would that just be, I'm just trying to think of a case where you would actually like carry over. Would it be like, 1 year you got the 40 hours, but the next year you didn't, or?
Right. So this is the piece we're waiting on the Department of
Okay,
Labor to get back to
sorry.
us about. But right, in theory, so say someone goes an entire year and doesn't use any of their time, right? Because they're part-time, they have enough days off during the week, whatever. So maybe they roll over their full 40 hours. Or maybe 1 year they only use 10 of their eligible 40 hours. So they've still got 30
Okay.
left, so we do know they have to carry over because we don't want everybody's hours getting swiped. So they have nothing to use in January, right? Like, so we want that carryover. But we're really waiting for that Department of
Okay.
Labor clarification so that we can better put a bit more clarification into that piece. Right
Okay.
now, it's just, it will carry over.
Thank you.
I think I do. About the disbursement at the termination of employment, that is not going to be reimbursed.
Correct. It is
Okay.
not vacation time, and so it will not be paid out.
It will not be paid out. Okay. Okay, I read that wrong. So I read paid leave will be paid at the employee base pay rate. Like.
It's actually the very last sentence in that same paragraph.
Yes.
Will not be paid any accrued but unused paid leave upon termination. of
Yes,
employment.
that's where I would. Okay. And we are reinstating after if they come back within 12 months.
Yeah, so the law requires that.
Oh, okay.
So if,
Eliminate-
and I think the intent of that is like seasonal employees. Like your park districts who have a lot of seasonal employees, if they come back to work within a year, they get to keep their accruals.
Okay, and is it 40 hours a year or is it based on, because if they're not working?
It's a max of 40
Right,
hours per
okay,
year.
for
So
staff.
like if some people
Right.
may have never even get to like 3 hours worth of time, right?
Right.
Based on what they work for the year. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll vary a lot.
That's what, thank you.
Luckily, our timekeeping system can do the math for us.
Well, great.
Okay.
Thank you for
Super.
explaining all that. And hopefully you'll get the information you need from the Department of Labor.
Here's hoping.
Rather than later.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your time.
Lisa.
Thank you.
To another policy. Material selection policy.
Okay, so this is a slight change to this policy, and this is in response to the law that Governor Pritzker signed back in June. That was the book banning law. As part of that law, libraries will only be eligible for state grants if they either adopt the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights or develop a written statement prohibiting the practice of banning books or other materials within the library system. We did send our material selection policy to our attorney just to make sure that we were compliant with the current material selection policy. He said, yeah, in the spirit you are, because the wording was, or currently is, that we, let's see, we uphold, the library upholds the Library Bill of Rights, the freedom to read statement, and the freedom to view statement of the American Library Association. But he said, if you want to be, very clear on this, we could change upholds to adopts. So we are proposing here to change from upholds to the library adopts and adheres to the principles set forth in the Library Bill of Rights, the freedom to read statement, and the freedom to view statement of the American Library Association.
So here's the concern I've always had with this particular law as it comes in, and I actually talked to our elected officials about it before while they're still talking about it. Is, and I think Mike, you and I might have talked about this too, is one person's censorship is another person's inclusion. And that's the one gray area of this whole thing that I've always worried about, because people who do collections and pick up the books, they're magicians. Okay, I don't know how they do that, and they figure out how to get the books. Fantastic thing. So they have to have abilities to figure that out, right? And there has to be certain ways that they figure out what to bring in. I get back to the statement, one person's censorship is another person's inclusion. If somebody challenges something based on this law, comes up to us and says, hey, you're not putting that book in there in your library, and I think it should be included. So I'm gonna contact the state, and I'm gonna say that you guys shouldn't be getting your funding because you're not including that book. That I think it's kind of a reverse of people, coming to us and saying you shouldn't have that book in there. And while this may be really out there and probably won't happen, there is a possibility in the way this law is written. So should we, and I'm throwing this out to everybody because maybe you guys think I'm going down now, but is there something that we should do to make sure that we're at least prepared for in case that type of situation comes up?
Not really censorship until you remove it from the shelf. So if it never was on the shelf, then it's not censorship. A person suggests materials and everything. But if they're not included, then yeah, someone can. If we don't pull it off the shelf.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that.
So
That-
sometimes a book may come into the library. Have the ability to say. Binding is terrible. I mean, that's the excuse everybody used for not getting them. The binding was terrible on it. And say we're sending this back. Might may not even know about that. They're just gonna send it back because it's a non-issue. But once it gets on the shelf, it's a whole different story. So, and let me just add the little bit of background. Mike, I don't know if you were at that meeting, but a number of months ago, had a Zoom meeting with. Basically, what this comes down to. Does that mean they're out the window? And what if someone does have a legitimate concern about a book? The whole thing, they wanted to wouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction that Mr. Brown then said, this is a terrible book, take it off the shelf. And the board said, oh. So it's not necessarily that the book. That's what they told us, that the professionals, in their sound opinion, you know, this is, and in all my years, 40 years, you know, we've never taken a book off the shelf, never, ever, except I will say the Seuss books, we took them off the shelf, we had them available, but we took them off the shelf because we knew they'd get stolen. And we put on eBay for $500 each. So, but they were always available to the public. It's just we didn't put them on the shelf for that reason. But so the whole thing, professionals should have the say in this, and that because sometimes boards can be. What's the word I'm looking for? They're just
Reactions.
yeah, or nature reactions, and I don't know how much you'll find it around here, but maybe in. And there's still an out. If a board wants to do it, they can, but they're just not gonna get the per capita. You don't care about them. Get that much money, although that. But anyway, so it was just, that's what we heard, that they want librarians involved and.
To when some books are taken off the shelf because no one's checked them out in a really
Oh,
long
yeah,
time.
oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Even though, and potentially controversial, but as long as. Data to say, we always, as a library. Shelves when no one's checked them out. 10 years and they're out of date.
So and that's why you have that in the pub.
Is very inviting, under selection criteria, it. Available to make a purchase, selectors
Right.
consider customer interest, and the other. It encourages residents to discuss it and bring it, so I think it's very inviting if someone does have an issue like.
So we're comfortable with the fact that, okay, it's kind of be read into it, so I was just trying to read it over. You know, but that the whole censorship part of this, of the law is based on books that are already on there. And we can defend that if we. It's because we did the right selection criteria. Yep, so we're comfortable with that part of it, okay, all right. I mean, overall, I just want to say, I'm glad the state did that they put that out there. It gave us something to go back on for when these type of things.
What it does is it. Librarians are like. But what you find offensive, I may not, you know what I mean, that's.
Everybody finds offensive.
Yeah, that people will find that it's one of your books in your collection offensive. And that, yes, there are, not only are, there are librarians leaving those libraries. Arrested, you know, I mean, it's. Grateful to the Secretary of State. That our libraries and our library.
All right, before we. Spend it, tech. Andy said the sound is tough, but.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
About that.
Chatting with her here.
Okay. All right, we are looking forward to hearing about the Maker Place.
All right, I invite Diane Marchbank Murphy to the podium and I will share her presentation here.
What is that? E-chat?
Yeah. That is a new one. That is the new one. No, you're in an industrial space. You're not in a library, Carol.
Yeah.
It's part of the
Exactly.
charm.
Exactly, yes.
Some new faces to me, so I just want to introduce myself really quickly. I'm Diane Bushwick Murphy. And I have been here at HMO for a little bit over a year, actually. So quick facts about me is that I come from Chicago Public Library, where I actually led the team that started the Maker Place and the Maker Lab, Maker Space at Chicago Public Library, a little over 10 years ago. And also I led teams in design thinking, training our staff. Because, numbers don't necessarily tell the whole story, so design thinking is a process of integrating interviews, observations, immersive experience with data, so we can figure out what the best creative solutions. A quick recap of what we talked about the last time I was here and what that means for our growth and our planning, where we are today, the progress and our results, and what's next. So the makerspace, actually makerspaces in general, are about. So this is a learning pyramid about adult learning, specifically about adult learning at makerspaces. We're not going to go through the whole thing in the interest of time, but I just want to show you that the foundational level of is awareness. That is important because adults, we need to help inspire them. We need to tell them what the possibilities are of things that they could do. And then we need to work towards that next level of implementation, which is big in adult learning because we have to not only inspire them about creatively, but actually trying something hands-on, facing their fears. Adults do not like failure. So it is about facing that fear, being willing to try the thing. And then also adults like to be very project oriented. So saying, hey, I have a good idea, it's nice, but how is it gonna benefit me and improve my life? Because I have this plot. So we also last time talked a little bit about the staff resources that are required at these different levels of the pyramid. Basically, as we're laying the foundation, there's a lot of staff time that goes into developing classes, networking, outreach, community connections, developing resources and the such. Then once we have people coming in to take classes, we have returning users and unique users and some things that we're looking at in just a second. Then the staff gets a little more established as we go up the level of the triangle, which we will talk about for sure down in the future. Independent in their learning or independent in their activities of what they're doing when it comes to the Maker Place. So it requires a little bit less in terms of staff. What we said we would do last time, we talked about needing command for culinary classes. We have increased the number of programs. We've got creative programs. We have conversation programs. Talk about how this is a foundational level. So yes, she was there. Sorry, I was in the slide. So we talked about continuing to build the foundation. We've been doing all of these things, so much more, introducing the meetups and many different events. And so that's what we're focused on, right? I don't have my notes with me. So the notes will be that that's what we're doing about this is this is where measure numbers. So awareness of the foundation. These are easier numbers to measure. So this is I'm open for you. This is the transition. So for measuring awareness, door count is an easy thing. People are coming through the doors. And as we go through the slides, we're going to for INE orange. So 2023 is the orange. We're outperforming our previous month, which is already outperforming previous year. So we're going in the right direction. We have a constant steady flow of people requesting 3D prints. We also have, we did the slide last week, we did an audit, and we are still holding steady at 52% Maker Place only checkouts. By that we mean that people who are checking out equipment here at the Maker Place, 52% at the Maker Place, they're not checking anything out at the library. That's They might be in the main library, they might be in programs, that's wonderful, that's great. Unique users, so looking at a different community, yes.
So it's make sure I'm understanding so each time they're coming in, they're just coming here to do something, but they're not going over at the same point to the library to.
They might be at the library, but they haven't checked anything out.
On that same day, is that how?
It's within the same time period.
Somebody at other days have gone over to the library and
On
checked
the
something,
other side of that 6 month time.
yes, oh, within the 6 months,
Yes, this is a 6 month time period.
that they've only done maker 52%.
That will only check out something we're asking.
So what you're telling me is that you're reaching more. Because chances are those 52% wouldn't be using the library at all.
Right, right.
Marketing, right? So
Loves it. I see this woman on Facebook all the time.
Okay, so I'm not gonna play the video, especially. Evidently some of you know, of course, and she actually did a live stream, she's on Instagram making something and wanted everybody to know she was at her favorite place, So, those are things that are hard to measure, but really exciting. Other things that we're doing, we continue to network. I helped establish the Chicagoland Maker Summit when I was at Chicago Public Library, and I'm happy to bring Arlington Heights from the Chicago Tool Library. This is where we get together with the Fab Lab from Museum of Science and Industry, the Chicago Children's Museum, the Field Museum, other libraries, Northwestern University, UIC are represented because making and maker spaces are all in our making community. It's a whole community of practice, so we're all learning from each other about what we're doing and giving each other tips. And Chris is also very involved with the Makerspace Networking Group here more locally. So he's staying connected, which is very beneficial. And then workplace statistics. We are leading the pack, if you will. This is so August is the last time that we went ahead and did an audit of this, but you know, we have 1,400 people coming through our doors in August, and then Elmhurst is behind us at 725. So people know about us, they're coming through the doors, and we're happy about that. Also, Chris presented recently at the Illinois Library Association down in Springfield. He presented with Katie Meyer about the assistive devices that they together to create, and they're spreading the word. We've already had libraries contact us for more information because they want to copy what we're doing. So, you know, we're working hard at establishing us as a leader in the also community connections and outreach. These are just samplings of what we have done this year, like getting out in the community, advertising your. A unique event that we had this year was Allie here at the Maker Place. She is the person who does this. And she actually found out that Empty Corner, if you know, had an air contest. And so she joined the contest because she was like, hey, this is cool, this is what I do, let me go do it. She won. Happy to brag about the fact that she won, which is great, but it's actually a really nice way of showing a way of advertising and spreading the word about the maker.
And can I just say too, I've known for a while what that Empty Corner is. So it's literally a storefront, like right by Scarsdale, right off Park and Arlington Heights Road. And they have, I mean, they're on Facebook. They have a lot of different events, very eclectic events, very family oriented, art, and I just think it's really interesting. I feel like there used to be like pizza place in that area. It's near, I think it's near where like Dondi's was, right? And so it's a place that people went and it has a very big following. So that's really
Right, very artist.
And it's right, this, you know, pretty close to the center of town.
And then more about community. Something that we're focusing on in this summer. With the newsletter, thanks to April, actually. These crochet pumpkins that one of our advisors made, and we were inundated with phone calls. We're like, I want to make pumpkins. Tell me the pattern. How do I find that? So coming into, you know, the winter, we know that it's going to be crazy busy here. This year, that season had started earlier with Halloween. And then an Etsy designer was making to sell, and the families were very excited to share costumes as a result of the work they did here at the Maker Place. That is about the foundation. That's about getting people through the doors, about making them aware of who we are. But then it becomes how do we get them to come back, right? So those first numbers are great. These are the numbers that really it's community practice, community of makers. So this is where we're looking at programs, attendance, return users, and equipment reservations. So 2023 again is the orange. You can see that we are number of programs that we are able to do at the Maker Place does depend on the availability of our staff for planning and leading the programs. So please keep that in mind. Program attendance, September 2023 outperformed all of the previous months. Customer interaction. So this is a newer slide for us, the newer statistic we're looking at. The orange means something different here. The orange line down at the bottom indicates 15 minutes or longer interactions with customers. So those are interactions that are one-on-one interactions. You come in, you want to learn to use the embroidery machine. I sit down with you. Somebody sits down with you and so you use the embroidery machine. The blue line that seems to have this steep curve going upwards, right? That is interactions that are less than 15 minutes. So they may range anywhere between 5 to 15 minutes. Those are quicker interactions. We believe that those are users. So people who have more of an idea of what they're doing, they require less time, but yet they are increasing in number. And then Maker Place equipment usage also going up. So, I'm sorry, I thought I got rid of the animations, so I'm gonna just read through this here. So, numbers don't tell the whole story though, right? So the equipment usage, the numbers are going up. That represents one person making one reservation most of the time, right? But I'm just gonna jump over here to the upper right, that is the sewing machine. 15 minutes. Now, the longest a person was on that sewing machine in September was 9 hours. One person in here for 9 hours. So when we look at your account, we're thinking about, well, how long is that person really staying? That's a pretty significant interaction that is kind of hard for us to capture succinctly. And these are specifically September statistics. The embroidery machine, 2 hours, the average length of time. That's why we have it right here, though it does require a lot of assistance and interaction. And the longest in September, something was on it was 3 hours and 30. But the time again, so I said the numbers don't tell the whole story. The time they were on it doesn't tell the whole story, right? And I'm going the wrong way. What they're doing and what they do is where we actually look at what is the impact, what is the outcome. So this is Sally. A customer came in, she wanted to make an embroidery of her daughter's dog. And so we sat with and her a program guide, which took about 4 hours for the staff to develop. And she was on it for about 2.5 hours. So 6.5 hours of time invested, but results priceless, right? They expect to have unique experiences. Someone came in and they wanted to engrave a cork, not a standard size or a piece of equipment that we might be engraving. So it takes time. Our folks are problem solving, they're troubleshooting, right? For almost everyone that comes in, nothing is standard or the same. They get experiences, seems like a cheat. They punished the writer name on a backpack. It didn't stay flat. They had to do a lot of problem solving to make it work, but they did it and the customer is happy. And then this is my last community connection example, I think, for the day, is this young lady came to the anniversary party and she learned how to crochet from Esther. She went home and she crocheted and she came back and she wanted her picture taken with her advice.
Oh,
Again, no numbers are gonna capture that, right? But that is what we're here for. All right, more numbers, this one is not a pretty slide, couldn't figure out how to make it pretty, so my apologies. But what we have here is traffic flow at the Maker Place. So the blue rectangle, you're gonna go crazy trying to read the different days. The blue rectangle represents basically to highlight we're pretty much busy between 10 and 3 from when we open until about 3 o'clock. What we have found is 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, 5:36 tends to be downtime. So we are looking at that more closely. We also can see here that the peaks are when we open and also when programs are starting. So programming. So what are we gonna do? What do we have to keep doing? Well, we're gonna keep doing more awareness and building foundation because that is the base of it all. So no matter how comfortable people get and are familiar with who we are and what we. That's obviously, but we are continuing to do it. These are the most immediate plans. Building project guides, which have been very helpful. We will continue investing in. Excuse me, we'll continue extending and investing in partnerships within the communities. I don't know why this is not my better slide deck, I apologize. The craft swap, so we're doing unique and creative programming such as we're highlighting a craft swap this month. What are the classes that people want? We do surveys, we take feedback, we our most immediate plans in the future are our staff need to also continue to be trained on skills. So we are going to have staff jewelry making, we're going to have staff trained on gold making. And we are partnering with the ESL division to come up with some programs. So that's what we have done. That is what we're doing and planning on doing. We also want to talk about the future. I could talk about all of this other stuff forever. And we'll sure to talk about inputs, outputs, and other. The real reason I'm here is because we heard from you that you want a conversation around evaluating the service hours that we have here at the Maker Place. So I'm going to open with saying we are at capacity within our current staffing model. I'll get you more about that in a second. We would love to be open 7 days a week. The community wants to open 7 days a week, that'd be awesome. Just need more staff to do it. We love what we're doing, we love being here. So we'll discuss 3 options about what that change or increase hours, how we want to evaluate the hours. So I'm going to start with saying we have the same staffing model we opened. So we have Chris, we have 2 full-time people, and then we have 4 part-time advisors for the 39 hours that we are open. That's the staffing model that we started with 2 years when we opened the door. As you see, our numbers are up, our interactions are up, and we have the same level of staff. So when I say we're kind of at capacity around, that's why I said that. Digital services. So Maker Place is part of the digital services group. So I have the digital services team we're working in the library. We have the digital services that hours look like compared to what we have here at Maker Place. So the Maker Place is open 52% of the time the main library is open. we are actually at 40% of that staffing though. So we have less staffing, it's less time, but it's even less staffing. Our first proposal for how to evaluate services to do on Fridays, that would help us, it'd be a little bit different than just being open, because it would help us manage the customer and staff ratio. It still will require us to figure out how to increase some part-time hours. And also because we will have full-time staff in the building, but then we'll probably end up assisting customers, it will decrease, it will impact the program in the year. Next proposal we have is to be open on Fridays. We need to close on another day in order to do that because of the staffing levels that we have. So with our conversation, what we are suggesting for prototyping, at least try it out, is to close on Sundays and open on Fridays. Be increasing hours by adding staff. So we have, and just so you know, because with digital services at the main library, that is where we have drawn upon that staff to help supplement here already. We've already been using that staff, so if we have somebody who's been out for medical leave or emergencies, that staff is pitched in. So within my unit, we have maximized staff hours to support the units already. But obviously, adding staff costs money in their budget. That there are bigger conversations. And, you know, we are just excited, we're definitely enjoying what we're doing, we think the customers are enjoying it as well. From the top that off, and reiterate that programs drive attendance. Continue to evaluate our progress and adapt our approach. It does take time to build a new community and level of service. And we are successfully building a neighborhood community.
So that's a lot. That's
It's
a
a
lot. Oh my goodness. As to how many people are in the main library in digital services during the week? 3 people work in that department or 5?
Oh, I'm sorry, how many?
Yeah, in digital,
Staff.
yeah,
During the week, like
like on what day, like during a shift or?
During a shift at the main library, we have 5 full-time staff. And then we have 2 part-time staff that work with us. So the part-time staff, they handle the customer interactions, so people come up with a computer, they help with the printer. They also help, and the full-time staff also help in studio appointments, they help with the class instruction. And then if we're short-staffed at the desk, they help fill in with us.
And so that same time period, there's 5 full-time and 2 part-time people there, and there's 2 full-time and 2 part-time here. Do you have numbers on how, I mean, I know it's hard, but different days of the week? Like we have heard from the community, I think some of us have heard from people that would love to be here on Fridays. But like, I don't want to take Sunday if you're really busy on Sunday. So I guess what I'm trying to find out, is there another day? Do you have a difference? Is there a day that seems quieter?
Not necessarily, I don't think, yeah, there's not an obvious, no, and you know, we do programming on other days, so Sunday is kind of the easiest day to minimize, you know, eliminate programming. Something different. Also, part of the trick is how we staff and how the shifts are,
Right.
that's where Sunday is just one shift for 5 hours. Where if, yeah, it's based on the shifts, so if we were going to Friday, which we would recommend 10 to 3. Every other day, they are open, right? Or we think that that is the best to try. Hopefully not permanently, but hopefully to try it to see what the Friday activity would be like.
We also could pilot with some additional hours. Since we typically do come in under expended on salaries, we could
Gosh, I mean,
add some stuff.
I hate to give up Sunday because people don't work.
Can't give up.
Yeah.
Is the staffing model what was developed before the makerspace opened, just assuming, you know, if we want, these are the hours we want to be open, therefore this is the staff we're going to be.
I would say the staff have grown. I think the internal service model, Diane, you can speak to this, but you know, I'm thinking the way that they do things here at the Makerspace are different than when we started. It's the how we're staffing, you know, as far as hours and number of staff. I don't know, has that fluctuated at all since we've opened?
Power setting.
The hours in the numbers.
I think that my question is that, you know, you weren't going to staff to the fullest when you didn't have the demand yet, right? So my question is that the staffing was based on, you know, these are the hours that we will be open, that we would like to be open, but at this point, and the use has increased so much that actually we're having more of a strain right now on the staff. We have fewer hours within that model, so I wouldn't say it was necessarily the ideal model because you didn't have customers coming through the door yet, so of course you wouldn't fully staff up yet for that. But
And-
we definitely grown into what we started with.
Andy, did you have a comment? Yeah, Sarah.
First, thank you very much for all of that. So yeah, no, thank you very much. I guess in what I hear you loud and clear that, or at least what I'm taking away, is that you are at capacity. So that you are trying to troubleshoot the desire to have more opening, more hours, and really kind of coming forward with like, okay, these are some ideas that we're coming to. The other takeaway I have is that program drives attendance, right? And to come here. So it seems that when you're already at capacity and we need that staff for programming, you know, it's going to break. So I'm concerned about compromising the quality of programming, and also what brings people in. And it seems that lowers the intimidation factor. I've heard a lot of people come in and they come in with group, they do try a program and try it out instead of that one-on-one, like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. So again, just hearing that, the concern with the appointments, I do hear that for my concern with that is that does take away staff time and you're again shifting. And then the complete one day, it seems like that might be something that we could look at as another day to be open. But it is that what day. So, and then the other thing with looking at the budget is that we know that, you know, in the years to come, one of our biggest increases for the budget will be staff. And so are we just, you know, the thought to add more staff also is a concern just while we're still building. So I know I put a lot of concerns out there, but I hear too that, you know, their fellow trustees and also community members that do have some, wish to have different hours. So in kind of coming that, I really appreciate the ideas, and it does seem that maybe that one day switch could be something to be looked at to really try to compromise. But again, I hear what you're saying, and I would have some reservation with, asking more of the point, just to not compromise those programs. That's exactly.
And
Yeah, thanks. Sorry. I'm gonna keep my screen off because I've been having really bad connections. And I apologize, I've missed a lot of the actual presentation because every few words it seems to cut out. So I'm piecing things together and watching the presentation and whatnot. And I think the Maker Place is an amazing add to our community, and I commend everyone who has been working diligently on its creation and all of the additions and changes and programming that we have been able to develop thus far. I have been a big proponent on us trying to open another day of the week. And that's partly my own personal, like, I would like to see that for my own usage personally, but also I've heard that from our community. And, you know, my job here is to help make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community. As a business owner, I totally understand having staff that are stressed out and feeling like they either don't have the time or the resources, whatever that might be, to you know, do what they need to do. Sometimes it feels like you're right there next to the boat, but you can't seem to get in the boat. You're drowned in next to the, all you have to do is get in the boat. I don't know. And it sounds like you've looked at some ideas of how to open on another day, but I personally don't feel like the right answer is that should be that we have to close on a different day. It sounded like shifts had to be a minimum of 5 hours long. I don't know if I understood that correctly or not. Maybe there's some other things that we haven't thought of, and we could get outside the box a little bit and see if, for some of that programming, could you have a lead person and then have some volunteers or something like that, so that it's not pulling staff away, or that they could do more of the planning part of it and less of the labor of execution. I don't know what those answers are per se. That I trust that you guys will look at that. But I do think that we really do, and it was hard for me to follow the graphs and everything. They all looked beautiful and great, but again, it was kind of kept cutting out. So I couldn't really tell if there were holes that maybe it could be an hour shift that, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are slow, so we don't open until 1 o'clock. And that way we are able to open on Fridays as well, or Mondays as well. But, again, those are just sort of my thoughts. And I apologize that I can't speak more fluently to, all of the feedback and information you just presented. I just trying my best to follow along. So.
Thank you so much. And I'm hoping we can share the slides for people to look at. Right.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for the presentation. And as a board, I think you all know, we always have to be careful that we don't step over a little bit too far, like telling them how to run things, but just ask the questions of what we see. And I do agree with Andy. Two things I've always heard was the Friday thing and not enough kitchen coding classes. Those are the two things that typically come up. But I'm thinking about this, and forgive me, I'm thinking about this from my, as a business person. I know those things don't always translate over. But you sent us, and now that I'm bringing this up, we probably need to put it in the public record, but the email that you sent us the other day, where you're answering some of the questions, and one about the number of visits compared to like 2019, right? Just look at this from a numbers point of view. You showed numbers are going up, right? Where the numbers that you showed, that as of 2019, the same time, we're at 67% of visits and where we were at that point. To me, if this was people that work for me, and I look at certain things like that, I would start shuffling things around to make sure that the things that are really growing, the things that are covered. I'm sure you're thinking about that. I just have to say this out loud, so it makes sense to me. So that just seems to be like one of the things, can we shuffle that around? The other thing, and one of you mentioned it also, we talked about in the budget where we budget for, 157 FTEs, I think, or something like that. Yeah, 158, and we're at 149 pretty consistently over the last couple of years. So in the budget, we've added. We've got FTEs in there, and I know it's not that simple. And it's sitting there going, "Oh, would you stop it, Greg?" I know it's not that simple, but at the same time, it seems to me that there is some kind of work that we could do. But getting back to my first point, it's obvious this is one thing that the community really loves, and they want to do more of this. They want to keep on doing more of this. Unfortunately, the trend has been much longer than this time period. That's 3 or 4 time period. The visits at libraries are going down. Even though I think Carol would probably say they're probably stabilizing. You know, I don't know what you've seen, but so this is where I would put emphasis in. If we're training people, if we're hiring people, if we've got an ability to take somebody off of something that's over there, that's over in the other building, and move them over to here, that seems to kind of be the right thing for what the community wants. So that would just be my soapbox statement.
So sorry, this is just gonna come out as like sort of word vomit. These are just kind of my notes that I was writing down. I think if I remember correctly, when the Maker Place first opened, there was a call to like, you know, are there people who would like to lead a program? Like if you're really good at knitting, or if you're really good at so I think Greg, you just also mentioned like, you know, bringing in volunteers, you know, if oh, I'm sorry, Andy. So yeah, you know, I'm guessing you've already been thinking about this, but you know, again, just sort of like pushing to maybe think about that some more, because I know there are some power users who maybe would love to help, you know, once a week or once a month, help teach a class. Again, I know there are other things to consider with that. Not everyone's a great teacher, but and then I think this is more a question for either Dana or Mike. I feel like recently there was like a full-time staff member hired for the Maker Place. Am I, or was it like a part-time position was made into a full-time position? Or?
We added some to the budget. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
For additional staffing or changing some staffing. around.
okay.
Yeah.
And so is that for 2024?
24.
then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And so I don't, maybe you're not ready to talk about that yet, but
I would have to talk to Mike about that.
okay.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
just flexibility in
Oh,
staffing
okay.
for growth. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm just curious, you know, from the Maker Place staff, you know, have you all heard comments from customers like, boy, I sure wish you were open on Mondays or Fridays or earlier, later, like,
So we don't have a lot documented. I mean, nobody's putting anything
Right.
in writing for us.
and that's totally fine.
What I heard talking to staff recently was that moms who have kids that we were open earlier during the week
Okay.
because we opened too late for them to come in and work on projects. So the demand's there. Yeah, the demand is there. But that's really what we've heard more than anything.
Okay. Sorry, just one more question. And again, it's okay if you don't know this, but if we did want to open on Fridays, not take away a different day, but just open on Fridays, I'm just curious about what kind of staff, you know, would that be like one more part-time person or?
That would be 2 part-time people, and then well, is it 2 or 3? Because it depends on the hours we would decide on, right? So if we did an abbreviated day, then we would be looking at 2 part-time people, but then maybe they, you know, during the week with some of the, you know,
Busier
demands that we have when we are busy. That's where it becomes kind of tricky around the full-time staff because they already are alternating weekend. And so Friday is kind of a down day for them to work on programming.
Mhm.
So, it still puts a strain on full-time, but yes, it would be doable with a couple part-time people. Is that fair to say? I might have watered that down a lot for him, but, you know.
Well, no, I'm not looking for like super specific,
Yeah.
just, rough estimates. Thank you.
And we do volunteers to help us with programs. I mean, that might be an interesting model to think about. I don't know, putting a cost, about do you want to teach a class? I'm not sure. We do have people who do volunteer, absolutely, who are super users who do occasionally teach classes. But in terms of it being a regular model, that would be a challenge, right?
I just have a question about volunteers. I background checks. Are those standard and to what level working with children? Do we have any? Is it?
So, volunteers go through the exact same background check process that all staff do, which does include a full criminal background check of sexual assault. I think it's just the full criminal panel.
Yeah. And I saw it on one of the policies. I just was curious if it would be the same volunteer pool. But make it.
Yes, it should be.
I would say after listening to everything and, we just have gone through the budget process. We always come up very under budget. And I feel like we're thrilled that these are the results, right? What if we were here saying we missed your classes, your programming, your marketing, your staff, everything. So we gotta keep going on it. And I agree with Greg's point in that, if our user visits are down at the library, not to say that going to events at the library hosts somewhere else, or they're not checking out books online instead of physically going into the space, but we've spent a lot of time, energy, money, and the community is embracing this. And I really think that anything that we can do, and I think starting on a Friday, 10 to 3 sounds like a really good pilot. And then perhaps we'll see okay, you know what? Tuesday's a really quiet day because that's a day most people that work part-time in offices or whatever go in the office. Maybe I would love to see Friday data because I would love to see how that compares with other data, but also to Carol's point, I really would not want to give up a Sunday because we know most people are off Sunday. So that is a day that works for a lot of people. I don't.
It did show some data though, didn't it show that Saturdays and Sundays weren't as popular?
They're very popular when we open. They are here busting through the doors.
Oh, it was at the end of the day.
It's the end of the day. So I would have to look. Actually. But yeah, maybe at the end of the day is a quieter. Yeah, so we can see that. Sunday dinner is still a thing, I think, in a lot of places. So I don't know. I would just encourage if you can find a way to do the pilot without closing. I mean, I think that's kind of what we're all saying.
Yeah, I think we can do the pilot without closing an additional day. We were just kind of talking with our finance manager today about adding some additional hours for that, just to test it, maybe pull some staff from the main library, so it's not continuing to stress the staff here or stretch their schedules. So there are some things I think we can do for that pilot.
And if there are staff that are interested that, need to be trained on this, that's a great thing, right? Because they can be sort of jack of all trades. We would love someone to be able to have their commercial driver's license in case somebody gets sick. So yeah, I mean, I think that benefits both the staff and the library if people can be trained on this. Anyone else have anything they would like to add? Yes.
Just one thing to add. I know we're being very hard on you. I hope it comes across that we're being hard on you because we love do, and we want this to continue to succeed. So I just want to make sure you know.
Thank, no, we appreciate all of it. I mean, we understand like that this is from people wanting more. And that's a huge compliment to the team and the work that they're. And that you also are looking with the fiduciary responsibility of what is in the interest of the organization. So, you know, yes, that's why we don't come in and say, we need more staff, right? Like, you know, if there's a cost to that. So thank you, should appreciate it. And thank you for letting me talk about the awesome work that we're doing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, and the, you know, staff at the library has done great communications, we have WGN here, and, you know, there's always really enticing things, in the newsletter, so that, you know, everyone's working together, and I hope that the staff in the main library feel that this is their success too, because it wouldn't be what it is without them as well, so. All right. I think,
Amy, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
yes.
I want to thank you for putting all of that together, and yes, I mean, to echo Jen's comments, like, we're so passionate about this because it's so exciting, right? And it's not so much that we're trying to be come down hard. It's that we're trying to make sure that we're reaching as many of our community as possible, so that everyone has a chance to utilize this amazing space and this amazing programming. It is no fun to not have a good work-life balance. So if work is stressing you out, that's not cool. So there has to be some solutions there. I do think that having the, I don't think closing on Sunday is an option, or at least not a good one. I do think there needs to be the addition of, and whether that comes from, financing another staff or two or whatever. I did mention volunteers, but it also could be that, maybe some of our, staff at the main library who are in a more part-time capacity, would love the opportunity to pick up a few hours over here at the Maker Place and, be able to help out with an event or something like that. And they normally, are shelving books or something like that, but they would love to be able to become more involved at their place of work because they are passionate about what the library does. So those might be also alternatives. As a business owner, it's having the right people at the right time doing the right jobs. And so it's definitely looking at, doing the trial, finding out when are we busy, looking at Saturdays and Sundays and like, what, we only have 3 people who come in after 3 o'clock. We need to close early on those days and utilize those staff hours and staff time elsewhere. And those aren't fun decisions. Those aren't those aren't easy decisions. A lot of times people's schedules are impacted and that's frustrating. But as a business owner, you can't just be open hoping people walk in. And so we have to really look at those numbers and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible with when we do have staff there, when we do have programming there, and also being the most available to all our constituents while making sure that the staff feels supported and has what they need when they need it. So I will shut up now, but thank you all for all of your input tonight. And I'm going to go deal with my dog who's now barking in the background.
You. All right, moving on to Kids World.
Just want to show you guys some updated photos of the Kids World project. Okay, so Kids World project is still moving along quite well. A lot of these pictures are going to look very similar to the last one you've seen, especially since the joint meeting. But there is a lot of work that's being done behind the drywall. So this is the entryway. Drywall is all on. We are waiting on the millwork for this. So this will all be covered in wood that will match the wood that's throughout the rest of the library. The inside will be covered in like a wallpaper or some sort of design. But the millwork people were out last week, finishing up their measurements and double checking everything. They are planning to install the millwork on November 13th. So that is coming along pretty well. This picture, just to kind of show you again what that ceiling is supposed to look like. This is what it looks like now. All the drywall's been done. The inset is cut for the light. However, the light that the manufacturer sent us is a wrong one, so that has to go back, and they're expediting a new one for us. So this screws us up a little bit on our timeline. We were running about a week or two ahead of schedule. This will probably push us back a little bit. So we may open without this finished and then come back when the light comes in and be able to put that back in. The restroom and the wellness room are almost complete. The restrooms on the left, wellness rooms on the right. That is not the final color. That is primer on the walls there, but the tile work is done. The fixtures are in place. The plumbing, electrical, all that is complete. So those spaces are nearing completion. And then you've seen this image before. I just want to point out the alcoves on the left. That wall is just about complete now. I think the last time you saw it, that was still in studs, no drywall. The drywall's been done. The sprinkler changes that needed to be made have been made. That back wall was moved out where the Everbright is going to be mounted on. That was moved out so they could run electrical and network behind the wall. So that's been painted the proper color now. The wall on the left, that again is primer. We tweaked one of the colors, and so they're going to come back and paint that probably later this week or next week. So the Everbright is planned to go up on, I believe it's Friday of this week. So that we'll be seeing that up pretty soon. So that is very exciting. Here's our Lindsay room. So carpeting is gone. The LVT is now in place. And so it's looking very good. This space in the back here is where the sink is going to go. So that the counters and cabinets are will be going in soon now, since the flooring is complete. The paint still has to be done in this space. So the paint contractor will be through later this week and early next week to do the rest of the paint work. But if you're looking at that wall where the sinks are going to go, you see that how it's inset. So where that is inset to the right of that is where those cove areas are on the other side of the wall for those interactive panels. But the rest of that is a closet. And so this is looking from inside that closet. This is a very nice addition to that room for the Kids World staff. So they'll have some more storage space in there. And then that's just a closer view of where the sinks are going to go. And this is the tween space. So this was formerly the AV area, had the CD or DVDs, Blu-ray, games, stuff like that. As you walk into Kids World, so the entrance is to the right. The paintwork is pretty much done in this space. The new floor is down. As you can see, the Maker Place table and the Maker Cart are in. They're just kind of moving stuff in. So that area should wrap up pretty soon too. So this week they will be hopefully finishing up paintwork, and then also they will be bringing in the glass for the hub conference rooms. So that should be happening this week. As I mentioned, the millwork for the entryway will be installed the week of the 13th. The Everbright will be installed on Friday. As I mentioned, we were running a little bit ahead of schedule with those couple things with the lighting. I think is the big thing that'll be holding it up a little bit. There's a couple other things that are delayed, but we're probably back to our original estimated completion date of November 22nd. So, but still going along very well. Contractors are doing a fantastic job. Great communication with SMC. So things are going really well.
So Everbright's on Friday, so we all come on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly. Come play. In this image, we have the projection floor. So IT's been working on the projection system for that. They have that set up back in the IT area right now. One of the curveballs that we had was the flooring that Naperville used for this is no longer available. And so we're working with SMC to do an inset like tile or something for like an LVT in this space. So it'll be a little bit nicer. There won't be a bump up into that. You know, if kids are running across it and don't notice it, they will trip over it. So we want it level with the carpet and stuff. So that's one change order that we'll probably see coming pretty soon. But besides that, we haven't had very many surprises on this project at all. It's gone really well.
Good. Can't wait to see it. Agenda item 9, Illinois Public Library per capita grant.
Yeah, so it is that time of year again where we start working on the per capita grant. So the application is in your board packet there. It's blank at this point. We will be bringing this back to December committee of the whole meeting with everything filled in for a draft for your review. But between now and then, please review your standards for Illinois Public Libraries book. I will be reviewing it, and then all of you, as part of this grant, will need to review this as well, and then we'll talk about it at December committee of the whole meeting.
Excellent, thank you. All right, other. One, I have no idea if this exists, but I did notice that the Park District keeps some award for budgeting so well and being so financially strong. And the school districts around here routinely get those awards. So I have no idea if such a thing exists, but I feel like if one does for libraries, that we should apply for that recognition.
Sure, yeah, we'll look into it. I'm pretty sure it's through the taxing body. I think it would be the village that would apply through for that. Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be us.
Okay, okay. Do such a good job. Wanted to get an award. Sarah, just FYI, is presenting at the village board meeting next week. She's presenting our budget.
See this every week.
I'm here, smiling behind her, giving her support. But anyway, if anyone else would like to join us, we'll be there. Otherwise, you can always watch it on TV. Always, yes. And another thing that I'm not sure if everyone saw, but a previous board member at the was one of the original directors. His name is on the dedication plaque. And there was a nice article that we all received. Eileen Davies, who used to write for the Daily Herald, has her own little blog now. But Norval Stevens passed away at the age of 94 years old. Boy, he lived a long life. He and his family lived in Arlington Heights for more than 60 years and raised their children here. And he was not just on the library board of trustees, but a village trustee, and he was on the plan commission, and you know, really lived a life full and long, and we wanted to acknowledge his passing. So, and with that,
So one more other.
yeah,
So we have the village board joint meeting coming up Saturday, January 13th at 8:30. I believe we're hosting, right? I don't know if it'll be here at the main library, but just wanted to let you know that date is set January 13th. So it should be on your calendars already. I think Janet probably sent it. Yeah.
Sorry, Amy.
yes,
One-
go ahead.
I just thought of this. I know when we met with the Park District a week or two ago, yeah, whatever that was, they mentioned that they have a joint meeting with D25. I don't want to make more meetings for us, but like, I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe that's something we want to do every other year, and I know that it's not just D25. We also work with, you know, some of the other districts.
Yeah, we have done D25 before. We didn't do it this year. We were supposed to do it this year, but it got canceled. We did one last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did one last year.
And with that, I need a motion to go into closed session.
We'll go into closed session in accordance with 5 ILCS 120-2C1, review executive director performance goals.
Hi.
All right.
No,
It looks so good. No, I mean, I just started this. My resolutions is not picking
Yeah,
on
I-
the, so I have to get them done, so it's not picking.
move back into open session. Second, all in favor? Aye. All right. And now I move that we adjourn our meet, or do we need to do something?
We have two things. One is we need to take another roll call for everybody that's back in open session.
Okay, trustee Burrell,
Here.
trustee Gallup, trustee Kelly, trustee Vettel,
Here.
trustee Rule, no, she absent,
She's not.
trustee Zick,
Here.
president Smart, here.
And then usually we vote on accepting the closed session minutes, but there's no motion on here no action on here to do that. So what I'm gonna suggest is hold this over for the next meeting. And then we'll vote on it at that point.
Yeah, good. I will accept the motion to adjourn the meeting. So moved. Thank you.